Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Lengling, your host. I am so glad that you're able to join us today. I hope you've got your favorite cup of coffee. You're ready to sit back and relax and listen to another wonderful guest that I have with me today. His name is Ari Gronich.
Gronich, correct. Yeah.
Gronich. And his bio, I'm going to share a little bit about him with you folks. At 18, he began wellness programs with three major corporations, ushering in a new paradigm for employer based healthcare. And over his career, he has helped Olympic as well as Paralympic athletes break world records, win gold medals, and earn legacy championships. His mission as a visionary thought leader is helping to create a society designed from the ground up to be in harmony with nature, thereby eliminating the causes of disease and shifting the systems of medicine from an emergency mindset to a proactive mindset. So, Ari, thank you so much for joining me. I've been excited about this podcast because I want to learn more, so much more about what it is that you're doing. Also, you are also a published author, and you have a book that's entitled A New Tomorrow, as well as a textbook called it's Performance Therapist Certification Course. So first off, tell me a little bit about your book and your textbook for therapists, and then we're just going to roll from there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really glad to be here. And so yeah, the book A New Tomorrow is really it's about the medical system, but it's about every system. And it starts with the concepts of the butterfly effect and our consequences to our consequences to our consequences to our consequences of a decision that we might make right now. So then it goes into common sense and critical thinking. And again, it's based on the healthcare system, which is really quite broken, as we know. And that's been my bailiwick for 26 years. And it's designed to activate your vision for a better world. So as you read through it, I give you steps and tips and thoughts and things and questions that you can answer. So I suggest to people that they read it with a journal next to them and start answering the questions that come up in the book about what your life passion is. What is it that you want to be activated for? What's the world that you want to see, and how can you start creating that new tomorrow today?
I love that concept. And I might have to go on and get your book after this podcast, I think. Love that concept. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how you've worked with numerous athletes over the years, Olympians as well as Paralympians.
Yeah, I I was very lucky in my career and the school that I chose to go to, and I just kind of happened to run into these coincidences. You mentioned I started three of the first corporate wellness programs. Well, those companies, it wasn't a big mind that made that. It was, I'm running the clinic at my school. We need more patients. These three companies are right backed up to our school. So why don't we just take our clinic to those companies? They happen to be Fortune 500 companies, and they happen to be, very large. And some of those programs are still active today. But it was really just a necessity thing with the sports. As I was going through school that first year, we ended up going to a health fair. And this health fair was at a big coliseum, and there was a sports game that night. And two of the athletes that were going to be playing came over to our booth, and I ended up working on them. I ended up at the stadium that night on the court, and I ended up running out onto the court to to help with an injury just by instinct,
Yeah.
and I ended up with that team for a year.
Oh, I can imagine that would just be amazing, amazing, truly, because you're surrounded by people that have overcome so much, and they're heroes in their own right, out there
Yeah,
blazing the trail, and to be a part of that, yeah, what an amazing experience that must have been.
yeah, absolutely. The first time somebody comes into a room and takes off their leg, for instance, it's just like, oh, okay. or you're helping somebody who's paralyzed get onto the table, and the seizures begin, the muscle seizures begin, and you give them a breathing technique, for instance, that helps calm those seizures down almost immediately, where they might have been going for 5-10 minutes previously. So, uh, just an amazing experience having uh, an athlete put a gold medal on my neck was pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, I get goosebumps just hearing you talk about it because that would be amazing, and it's a once in a lifetime thing. I have a dear friend of mine who tragically lost a leg in a motorcycle accident years and years ago, and she is now world known around the world for her running. Her name is Amy Palmero Winters, and I believe that she was also in the Paralympics. But she has broken world record after world record for the past decade for being in these crazy, crazy hard triathlons and Ironman things. I mean, I don't even know what they all are, but I follow her. She's just an amazing individual, and nothing has ever stopped her. She was a runner before she lost her leg, and nothing's ever stopped her. And her life word that she has on all of her shirts that she wears simply is believe. And she has been such an inspiration, and that's just one person. I couldn't imagine being around so many like you were. It would just be, well, it would just, your heart would be overflowing, is what it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, a lot of those athletes come from places where they're literally ostracized out of the community. They're not allowed to live within the community. And they are literally doing this to save their life because their country needs the athletes. And so, to compete for them. And so when you get 6,000 of them all in one place, and they all see that they're all the same, you know, and they're competing. It's very different than the Olympic athletes. Let's
Hmm.
put it that way. And they
Yeah.
break world records left and right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and now we have these platforms that we can at least share some of it.
Absolutely.
You know, if the mainstream doesn't want it, we'll get it out there somehow.
That's right.
By golly. So tell me a little bit more about you've got so much. You're your mission as a visionary thought leader is helping to create a society designed from the ground up to be in harmony with nature. So share some of that. Share some of
Yeah.
that thought process and how it is that you're working towards that.
Yeah. So let me ask you first, is this considered an adult show?
Yes.
Cool. So I'll start with a quote from me.
Okay.
We made this shit up. We can do better.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm going to start from the premise that we made it all up. This is all a figment of our imagination. We took our imaginations and we created buildings and we created money and we created jewels and we created all those kinds of things. We didn't make the jewel, we made it cut so it looks
Mhm.
pretty. So we want to sell it for a lot of money because we made up the money and we created the value for what we create. Like we've created this whole mess that
Right.
we're in,
Hmm.
and we can do better. We can learn from what we've done and say, okay, but how do I want life to be for me? How do I want it to be for the future of my kids? How do I want it to be in the future in general? And then what am I doing right now to create that? So we start with the premise that we made it all up, because if we know that we made it all up, then we know that we can make something else up.
Hmm.
We don't have to be married to the concepts that are in our past just because we know them and they're comfortable. The biggest fear is the fear of the unknown. So if you're creating something new and you don't know what you're, doing, that's where you stop. So my goal is to get people unstuck. You know, where is it that you're stopped in whatever it is that you're passionate about? Why isn't it that you're doing that every day of your life? And so when I talk about being in alignment with nature, everything from our corporations um, to our society, our streets in general, are designed in these grids,
Hmm.
right? You go into a company and it's gridded out and cubicled and all that stuff. It's grids, 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 grids. You look at farmland that's being harvested regularly, it's grids. But if you look into nature, just about everything in nature is circles. It's circular, right? You look into the middle of a tree, cut the trunk, circles, and at the base of everything is the spin of an atom, which is also circular. So if all matter and all things in nature are circular, why aren't we designing a world that's more circular in nature? So you kind of get that we can create something different that isn't anything like what's been. And so we don't need to be afraid of what's been and the titles and labels that we've put on it, like red or blue or socialism or communism or democracy, or like we don't need to put any of these old labels on
Hmm.
something that we're creating new. We can create something new that has nothing to do with any of that, and we can create a better
It's just,
society that
yes,
is more regulated by the people that are choosing how they want to be and how they want to live.
just humankind.
Right.
Like you were saying with the labels and such, red, blue, whatever. It could just humankind. There's too many, I think there's too many labels, which in turn gives people the illusion of power. And I like your concept and how you're going with that, and I like the circle. That's a nice visual for me. It brings it into perspective and clear focus for me how you explained that. So thank you. That's fascinating stuff there, and certainly worth thinking more about. I have a perfect example of what you were just talking about. There are those folks that are the doctors and physicians and whatever that are out there, but they're quiet and they're much fewer than the others. I was speaking to a lovely lady yesterday who had a stroke at the age of 53, and for 3 years she couldn't speak. She went to a chiropractor, and he said, "Hey, I have this new machine, and it was called a neuro. Oh, I don't have it in front of me. A neuro something, and it you have 5 electrodes that you put on your head, and it's hitched up to the computer, and it does just this bare minimal of electrical frequency, and you do it for so long, and but you can see your brain activity going. And after 16 treatments of that, and I don't know how long she had to sit there doing it, but she had never heard of it until she went to this chiropractor. And I think that there's only 1 or 2 of these machines in the entire country, and this was years ago. And she now speaks after 16 treatments. So it's 16 weeks. She hadn't been able to speak for 3 years. 3 years. And so then she finds herself at the age of 56 after taking these, I don't know, I can't think of the word that I'm trying to come up with here, the type of treatment that's not typical. It's a more holistic treatment. And I had she was on a guest on my podcast yesterday, and we talked for quite some time, and she's amazing. She's like an amazing success story. And that's so outside the box thinking. And if we don't, we need more of that, is I guess what I'm trying to get to, my point. We need more of that. And just exactly how you said it, maybe there's many less than what is needed, I think. Because there's so many things just in nature alone that was used from, since time began, used in medicinal purposes that you might even still have in your cupboard. You might have something in your cupboard right now, but you would never think to use it because no, a doctor didn't prescribe it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It is
It's
amazing.
amazing. It's amazing what is and what we allow. And that's where, getting loud is really about um, not only making your voice heard, but collecting individuals who believe in what your voice is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allies,
Yep.
and finding out who's not, you know, and finding out who you need to talk to further. So if somebody's disagreeing, awesome. That means that you can learn more. You can ask them questions. You can figure stuff out.
I felt very strongly nudged to do that. I've always wanted to, but then you're always under that, you're working, you've got your bosses, maybe you have a spouse or something. Oh, I have to do things this way and I need to do this way and I can't think about that. I've reached a point in my life where I'm like, you know what? Poop on what everybody else thinks and going with the norm and being, the status quo. I don't want to be status quo. I want to be the one out there that you said we got to get a little loud. Yeah, I want to be the one out there getting a little loud.
Yeah.
Waking some people up, damn it.
You know, it if you don't wake anybody else up, at least you wake yourself up.
Exact.
Right?
Yes. And it starts
Come out
with
of a
one.
fog. I don't know if you've ever done primal screaming, right?
I've never done it intentionally, but I have done it and I felt better for it.
Oh yeah. So so when you get loud, you have an added benefit of release,
Hmm.
whether you're releasing to an audience or not. So getting loud is not just about getting loud externally, but getting loud internally.
Yes, that's right. Letting your soul sing. That's how I look at it anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, I thank you so much for being with me today. I could keep on talking about this for a long time. So you're going to have to come back on again sometime. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, I'm going to keep me up to date on this new book that you're working on because I certainly want to hear it. And anything else that you're working on your own planet, I want to hear about that too.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.